Well, we're still in the middle of monsoons here in Delhi, at least. It's been raining cats and dogs. It's a little gloomy out there, the day in Delhi. It's been a lot of rain, waterlogged streets, which tells you what? We're still far away from the Indian summer. And the Indian summer, why is it relevant for Indian cricket fans? Because of the Indian Premier League. Well, while you're away from the real action, there's some sense heating up already with the mega auctions coming up. Well, we don't know exactly when that is scheduled. It could be lined up somewhere between December to January, but obviously there is excitement, palpable excitement around what some of the rules could be like. Will there be right to match? What sort of retentions will we see? Will there be another IPL mega auction after this one? Every now and then we keep hearing about how this could be the last mega auction, how that could be the last mega auction. Well, now we know for sure that some of the franchisee owners asked the IPL Governing Council for a mega auction every 5 years. They've asked for a certain number of retentions. They've asked for a certain number of right to match cards. And KL Rahul has met his team owner, the LSG team owner, after a rather, you know, after a rather public face-off after following a defeat in the 2024 IPL. So plenty is happening. Plenty of rumors, plenty of speculation. As you would expect, we would have all of that covered on Inside Sport. And what do we do then? I get my colleagues, Krishnendu Banerjee and Abhishek Shetty, on board to talk to you about what could be the next move, big move from the IPL Governing Council, from the IPL organizers, and what could the franchisee owners expect, Krish? I know people have been talking about it. Should there be a mega auction every now and then? I mean, the last one was last year. Now you have another one this year. You got to let go. I mean, you look at your revisiting strategies. You keep thinking of which players to retain. KL Rahul is already meeting with Mr. Goenka. Um, Now, speculations, obviously, will KL Rahul be retained? Or is that a normal discussion between captain and the owner on talking of strategies ahead of the auction, ahead of the rules announcement? Has it been ever this messy in a sense where people are struggling to find out what happens? The impact player, there's so much conversation around that. Krish, I'll start you off, and then Shetty, the more balanced of the lot, gets his take on the impact players on RTM.
We have been hearing a lot of talks about whether there will be a mega auction, whether there should be a mega auction, or there should be an auction at all. But the franchises have been pushing against it for the last few years, at least. I mean, there are two sides of it. One is from the franchisee side, they need to build the team, and that only happens when they can retain the players. I mean, just go back to those days when RCB had to let go of KL Rahul because they could not retain him. Yeah, you can always say that RCB were wrong in the strategy. They were, but also there were issues because of the retention numbers, and that is one of the aspects why franchises are pushing against it. They need to build the team. Now imagine what happens to franchises like Sunrisers Hyderabad. They have to let go of Abhishek Sharma for that matter. If they may not be able to retain him, if it comes to just let's say three or four retentions, because they have other players to retain. So the worst sufferer would be Rajasthan Royals. They have a set team and they have to let go of so many players, and that is the reason they have been pushing against it. But there is also broadcaster side. IPL tournament as a whole do not give them the sufficient profit margin that they can get. The rates have been higher than ever in ad rates, and that is one of the reasons they are also looking to maximize through mega auction. Mega auction attracts so much of viewers, right? So I mean, it is going to stay. I mean, no matter what franchises say, BCCI, Star, Geo, all have been on board on the idea of having a mega auction, as far as I can understand from the stakeholders. So it is going to stay, and no matter what you do.
There is always another side to a story, right? Um, Trisha raised some important points, but look at how the teams also face these challenges, right? You have a mega auction every 3 years. You are losing out on young players. You're not getting enough time to develop them. Moreover, the IPL is a fantastic tournament. I think it is the best cricket tournament in the world. Sometimes the quality of the cricket that you see in the IPL is much better than the T20 World Cup, right? When you have some inconsequential games, you will get a game here and there where you sit back and say, wow, this is international cricket at its best. But the IPL as a quality, as a product, fantastic. But unlike the Premier League, for instance, where you're building loyalty as a Chelsea fan, as an Arsenal fan, as a Tottenham Hotspurs fan, is get building loyalty becoming difficult in certain clubs. You sign on a young player, and suddenly 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, they're moving down to some other team. Um, and you obviously you're also looking at the number of retentions. So some the franchisee owners now want 4 to 6 retentions, maybe as high as six, to get to stick to that core. Because every year, if you have to select between three Indian players, two overseas, and then you have to bracket the budgets, and then you're left with a certain purse depending on who the player is. RCB, for instance, they obviously want to retain Virat Kohli. Same with CSK with MS Dhoni. MS Dhoni obviously, decided to lower his price bracket to fit into to help CSK strategize the auction better. But that is also we know that is part of the charm. That is why you have so much viewership for the IPL auctions. But maybe a fairer ground for the bigger teams, not even the smaller teams, because the bigger teams have the bigger fish to take care of, right?
So IPL mega auction actually doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see why a big competition like IPL has to do this. Like Krish mentioned, if the broadcasters want it, it doesn't make any sense. Imagine tomorrow you go and say to the Premier League that all the players which Man City has created, the squad, they'll have to bid for it again. So it doesn't really make any sense. And apart from that, like you mentioned, these people are investing money. Like teams like KKR, they run a camp in the USA during the off season. Okay, Russell and all are yield there. Their therapy goes on over there. They put on a lot of money. Like Kavya Maran said that Abhishek Sharma took 3 years to become Abhishek Sharma. So it doesn't make any sense for it's not fair. Okay, so if you have a team like Punjab or something like that, then you will want a mega auction. But then they'll go to the mega auction and then they'll make a bad team again because that's what we have seen. So
For that to
mega
happen, you will
auction
need
only.
mega auction every year.
Yeah, they come into the mega auction every year with the highest purse and then they mess up anyway. Mega auction only makes sense when new teams are being introduced. So if tomorrow IPL introduce more two teams, then okay, then it makes sense because the league is growing and they'll want to touch a certain number of teams like 20 or something like that. After that, they'll stop. But till then, mega auction doesn't really make any sense. It's just a mess.
We'll quickly also move to the right to match options. I know that has been another stirring debate across franchisees. Fans, players have been weighing in as well, right? It's like, where is the limit on the RTM and how do you negate that, Krish, with one of the bigger teams? And that is when it becomes trickier because, I'm sorry to be using this word constantly, big, small, but I'm, I mean by the weightage of players and with the number of championships you won. Imagine, I'll just throw out a random adventurous bid proposition. Suppose the Super Kings say, let's put MS Dhoni on the table. Maybe this is his last IPL. He's already stepped down as captain. Let's have some fun, free up some purse, and then let's just come back with it and do an RTM. But a Delhi Capitals might just look at an emotional angle for MS Dhoni as well. I know that's not going to happen, and I'm talking through my hat. But just to put in perspective how tricky RTMs can get, there could be three teams vying for the same player, and suddenly you have an RTM just because the team decided to loosen up its purse and get a more strategic initiative or a strategic advantage at the auction.
Yeah, so RTM is very important. I think like even if they are having this mega auction, just put 6 to 7 RTM. Like you said about Dhoni, it's a very tricky bet to take. It's a gamble. Like sometimes if they put Dhoni out, thinking that no one will bid for him, but then if Punjab and Delhi or teams like LSG goes for him, then that doesn't even make any sense. They'll have to pay more anyway, CSK if they want to use RTM. And some people in the auction table also will just, bid just to increase the price of certain player. But again, RTM is important from where I see it.
I think RTM just expands the number of retentions. It's a glorified retention policy and it should not exist. If you are going for a mega auction, if you are sending all the players on the table, it should be stopped. I mean, otherwise, then you increase retention. Why would you have retention plus RTM? That is something even
But
franchises have been talking about.
you can choose how much money you want to give to that specific player. In RTM, you're blocked. You're blocked by your competitors as well. They can increase the price of the player. So you're not
They
sure you
can
want
they
to
can
buy
take
him.
disadvantage.
Yeah,
I
that's the
mean, that is
disadvantage.
the tricky one. Yes.
No, but imagine what sort of impact it also creates among the players. Suppose you have a combination of retentions and RTMs, right? And suddenly you have three players retained in the pool. Now, two other players, maybe equally big stars or maybe bigger stars given their performances in the recent IPL campaigns, they are out there on the auction pool, and then they draw higher bids than the purse allocated for the retained players, and then there is a sudden RTM, and they come back to the team at a higher salary than the retained players. I can imagine some of the franchisees also struggling to try and massage that kind of ego. And this, I mean, it's okay, it's acceptable. You have two world-class players, and suddenly one of them goes out to the auction pool, and he comes back with an RTM into the same bracket at a higher salary. There is plenty to ponder over, and these are challenges that the teams will have to negotiate, and obviously they will look at the governing council to address those issues, and that these rules could be ironed out pretty soon. And some of those rules, I love the IPL auction. That is why I love the IPL auction. There is always so much to talk about. There will be several challenges. I mean, look at how many uncapped players. I mean, we haven't even gotten to uncapped players because this is we are always we're going to be short on time with discussing so many aspects, but we'll come back and talk about uncapped players as well when the rules are officially announced. But quickly, guys, Shetty and Trish, impact players, is it really important? Is it again, taking all-rounders out of the game? Because remember, when the impact player rule was first introduced 2 years back, everybody said,
Yeah.
what happens to all rounders? You choose to bat, you get an extra batter on, and then you replace him with a bowler. Then what happens to the Shivam Dubes of the world? I know it's an extreme example, but there is case to be made for how the all rounders shape up with impact play rules.
So it is spoiling the game as a whole, but it is uplifting IPL as a brand, as a product. Like I think this year was one of the most entertaining year, uh, and it was fun. It was fun to see teams go and score more runs. I know the players, coaching staff, everyone is against it, but as a viewer, it's more fun to see because anyway, I don't take IPL that seriously. I think it is just a tournament and just enjoy it. So why not? Why to just see a matches of 130, 140 runs when you can just watch matches of 260, 270 runs. So it's just fun that way for me at least. So I'm in for it. I think impact player rules should stay, and more people will watch the product. Is what I feel.
Krish?
Um, I have a hot take on that. Is the is the greatest thing for IPL and the worst thing for Team India. As simple as that. You have ruined the chance of developing any all rounder. I mean, imagine Hardik Pandya is such a rare commodity that even if he fails over and over again, we have to lift him up because he is the sole survivor of that pace bowling all rounder category. Imagine if there is the likes of Nitish Reddy. Shivam Dubey is not an all-rounder. I mean, you have put him in an all-rounder category and you have made him a batter. He just bowls 1.5 or let's say at times 2 overs. I mean, how many times he has bowled 4 overs? He can't field properly because he is not even on the field. And you want to take him to the World Cup? Good, because he deserved that spot initially. He went to the World Cup. Then what happened? You saw the results, right? So that is the worst thing BCCI could do to IPL, especially for Team India. Entertainment perspective, of course, why not? I would say have two, three such impact players. They would create impact. Let the score be 400. Who cares? But you are ruining the match for Team India. I mean, if you actually care about Team India, then you should stop that immediately. Rohit said that, Virat said that. I mean, many of the players said that, and they said it too late. When the first year it started happening, David Warner spoke against it. Ricky Ponting spoke against it because they are sensible and they are not invested in the idea of what BCCI says is correct. That is the main point. Why Rohit has to say that 1 year later? He could see the problems it could create when you only have someone like Hardik. That is it. It should be scrapped immediately.
It's interesting because there will be so many hot takes on the impact there, and unfortunately, I'm afraid we are running out of time. We are out of time. A lot of cricketers have spoken up, and there will be views and counterpoints on the impact of impactless. I think it's interesting because you look back a few years ago and you see the Big Bash League, and there was some major complications around the new rules. Some of them were old rehash really of rules experimented with in the past. I mean, look at the impact there. There was a rule called super subs in one-day cricket many years ago. It vanished without a trace. The impact players, I think it makes it interesting because the teams are then allowed to think strategically in certain conditions. When there's a collapse, now you're worried. Do you bring in that extra batter? You've been thinking of reserving an extra spinner on a slowish surface. It happened, I think, with Rajasthan Royals. And then again, the IPL, it has been a breeding ground for a lot of tactical nuances. R. Ashwin sent up ahead of Shimron Hetmeyer. So you expect some stunts like that from Kumar Sangakkara. I think he's quite fancy when it comes to these stunts. And it also, puts you in the limelight. How do you tackle with those? Batting collapse, the bowler getting hammered. Do you get another one on to just to balance that thought? But like I said, I'm afraid we're out of time. We'll of course come back with a lot more. We're not going to be able to pack in a lot of it in one episode. Quickly before I go, Shetty, I think wants to make a point, and then we say goodbye and wait
Yeah.
for next week
So I
to unfold. Yes, Shetty.
just have one question for both of you before we sign out. Who do you think is going to be the most expensive player in this IPL auction, and which team will buy that player? First, Krish, and then Raj can answer.
If it is, let's say, if someone like Klassen goes on the auction table, it will definitely depend on the retention numbers. And RCB has a habit of buying the most expensive players. Maybe it is in their it it shows well for them. I don't know. They are going to be that category. But yeah, Mumbai Indians need to kind of rejig up a lot and even never Punjab Kings. I mean, they will have probably what 80 crores left at the end of the retention policies. So you cannot rule out who would, in right mind, buy for that Sam Curran for 18 plus crore rupees. So yeah, Punjab Kings, you can never rule them out.
Yeah, Raj, you.
It's a tricky one to answer. It's a tricky one to answer at this stage, but I just think it's going to be a fast bowler. Maybe preferably a fast bowler who can bat a bit, like you saw with Cummins and Stark last year. However, you look at the fast bowlers and the impact they've had in Indian conditions during the 2023 ODI World Cup and then the subsequent IPL. I think one of the fast bowlers will get the really big bucks. And with the teams, I'm not really sure how they're lining up because some of them have some bizarre strategies. With RCB, it's always questionable. Krish mentioned Punjab Kings. I think mostly Mumbai Indians and Chennai Super Kings have been super nuanced. Mumbai Indians, the recent fortune, I think they're building for the future. They would be worried about their performances, but this is a team that is building towards the future. They've taken some bold calls, and you'd probably see a little bit of that adventurous streak in the IPL auction. But we'll reserve our comments till we obviously get a clearer picture of the retention list and on the rules, of course. RTMs, retentions, impact there, plenty. There's plenty of action lined up for next week, like I said. So we're going to come back and unfold all of that. Meanwhile, have a great weekend. Enjoy the rain wherever you are in Mumbai and Delhi. It's some really fantastic weather. So thank you for joining us and have a fantastic few days ahead.